Have you ever hated someone so much that them dying wasn't enough for you? Maybe you felt the need to dig them up, to put the corpse on trial and undo everything they've ever done in life. And in January of 897, that happened to a guy named Formosus. Let's talk about it. So a small disclaimer before we get started. If you've watched some of my other videos, you know I like to put up pictures of the stuff while I talk about it, so you don't have to look at my dumb face the whole time. But I'm not sure if you know this. They didn't have cameras back then, and I can only find a few paintings. So y'all are just gonna have to put up with whatever I did find and whatever I can make. So, what did Formosus do to be hated this much? Well, we have to go back to the beginning of everything. He was born around 816. Strike one. And right at the beginning, from when he joined the church, he controversially rose to power and quickly became the Bishop of Porto, due to how he was known as a skilled diplomat and cleric. Did I mention I can't draw? I'm not artistic at all, and that's artistic with an R. With a U, it's debatable. Am I blurry or is the camera? But this was one of the biggest and most prestigious places in Italy, and while there, he quickly became embroiled in the politics of the Carolingian court. Strike two. Then sometime in the 860s, Pope Nicholas I sent him on a mission. This mission was to crown Boris I of Bulgaria. He wanted to convert his people to Christianity and had two choices: Byzantine Orthodoxy, Roman Catholicism. Boris wanting to see what each church had to offer him to put him and his people in the best position. And the Pope sent Formosus thinking that since he was a skilled diplomat, it's how he got the Bishop of Porto gig, he should be able to build a relationship quickly and eventually win him over so he could crown him. And by crowning him, he would be aligned with the Pope, and by extension, Bulgaria would be aligned with the Roman Empire. It's a big deal. But yeah, that didn't work. He couldn't get it done. The Byzantines did. Here's a picture of them baptizing him, and that pissed off all the higher-ups. Strike three. Being how his corpse was put on trial and he's not dead yet, we have some more to go. He aligned himself with the Holy Roman Emperor against Pope John VIII, which these types of things happen between the Holy Roman Emperor and whatever Pope there is. It seems to happen all the time. This stuff also makes the region very unstable, even to the point where a couple hundred years later, they fight a war over a bucket. Video on that coming soon, so subscribe for when it gets uploaded, but also that's strike four. Look, I know 3 strikes and you're out at the old ball game, but recently the USA became world champs in cricket, and me being American means I get to make the rules for a bit. So cricket has strikes now. That's it, now it's cleared up, we're moving on. That alignment got him excommunicated from the church in 876 on charges of aspiring to the papacy and inciting rebellion. But even after all of that, when John VIII died in 882, he got to come back to the church as Bishop of Porto, and then he got elected to Pope in 891. I thought once you were excommunicated, that was like a done deal. There's no takesies backsies, you're burning in hell, bye-bye. So, while Formosus was Pope, the Holy Roman Emperor Charles the Bald died, not to be confused with Charles the Fat. And being how he is the Pope and the things that he's responsible for, like the whole crowning thing that he failed to do in Bulgaria, his support carries a lot of weight. The TLDR on the whole thing is he initially supported a guy from the Spoleto family tree for the crown, but then he changes his mind later because he thought that guy was too aggressive and supported someone named Ulnarf of Carinthia, to the point that he invited him to invade Italy and take it over. This invasion failed, and this pissed off everyone, especially the Spoletans. Strike 5. Then Formosus died in 896, and there was a new pope for a few months, then a new pope by the name of Stephen VI. He took over that same year. The thing that you have to understand is Stephen hated Formosus. More than likely because the Spoletan guy that he flip-flopped on, he won and was crowned king. Stephen was also a big fanboy of the Spoletans and wanting to cement his power as pope, so doing crazy shit like digging up someone who was opposed to the new king means it was more than likely this was politically motivated. Because of course it is. politics and wanting to impress people has been making people do dumb shit since the start of time. And then, in January of 897, he gave the order to dig up the corpse of Formosus, dress him up in his Pope outfit, and put him in the court at the Basilica of St. John Lantern. It was time for the Synod. So, what is a Synod? Synod is Greek for assembly. It's when church people get together to solve problems for like administrative purposes or discipline issues. Keep in mind, this was about 9 months after his death, so I can only imagine what the smell was like. And after that long, you know, it was a mess. Stephen was the prosecutor, and he was also one of the judges, but with one of the others being Bishop Sergius III. So we have the prosecution and the judges laid out, but also I couldn't find anyone else named. So those are the two that we're going to go with. I'm just going to pluralize it and move on. So how did any of this work? What was the accused defenses since he was, he was dead, so they weakened at Bernie's Formosus, and he had some deacon beside him to speak for him, and he stood accused, rotting in a chair. Anyway, he was charged with perjury, violating canon law by attempting to become the Bishop of Rome when he was still the Bishop of Porto, and coveting the papacy. The whole trial was basically Stephen yelling at the corpse, and then this poor deacon had to make up some bullshit to like try to defend him. First of all, that dude had to stand next to a rotten corpse. Just keep in mind, embalming didn't get to that area of the world until late 15th century, so 500 years later. So the smell as he opened his mouth. Plus, he is surrounded by basically all of his bosses. So angry man would be angry at the corpse, and the guy would have to half-ass a defense while probably trying not to gag. So to no one's surprise, guilty on all accounts. But how do you punish a dead guy? For starters, that kangaroo court made his papacy invalid. So all his acts as pope were thrown in the trash. Were you in the church and got ordained or appointed to a post by him? Not anymore. You're probably seen as legitimate. So that was a shitstorm in itself, leading to a ton of confusion and instability in the church. On top of that, they stripped his body of his papal robes, gross, then cut off his fingers that he used for consecration, then buried him in a grave for outsiders. But Stephen wasn't done yet. He then had them dig him back up, tie rocks to him, and throw him in the Tiber River. Jeez, I thought I hated some people, but damn. The public reacted exactly how you would think it would. Horror, ick, and outrage. The fallout ultimately led to Pope Stephen VI being deposed, imprisoned, then strangled to death in his cell in the summer of 896. I guess the guards fell asleep. The newer Pope, Theodore II, then did another synod in December of 897 that undid the Cadaver Synod. And the outcomes from that restored some semblance of order and stability to the church. So all those people that were ordained by Formosus were back to being legitimized. They also retrieved his body and reburied it in St. Peter's Basilica. And in 898, John IX also did his own synod in Rome and another one in Ravenna. These were to confirm the findings of Theodore Synod and destroyed the findings of the Cadaver Synod. It also outlawed corpses being put on trial and excommunicated 7 of the cardinals that were involved in it. However, remember the co-judge Sergius? When he was the newer pope in 904, he overturned the results and decrees and upheld Formosus' conviction, and also had an epitaph put on the tomb of Stephen VI. And I guess just dying just isn't good enough for some people.